Welcome to the Dating After Divorce podcast. I'm your host, Sade Curry, and I believe every divorced woman deserves a romantic relationship where she feels safe, loved, and cherished. You can create the most amazing life after divorce, and I will teach you how. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Dating After Divorce podcast. It is good to be back with you all. And I have a very special guest, my friend, coach, colleague, Michelle Gauthier, here on Zoom to record this episode about her dating journey. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So you are a life coach for overwhelmed working women.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So tell me a little bit about that. What is happening there?
Every time I tell people that's what I do, they're like, "Oh, so all the women."
All the women.
Yes,
I was going to say, I'm like, how did you find us out?
Yeah, pretty much all the women. I really got into that because I used to be an overwhelmed working woman and I had a corporate job for 20 years and I traveled a lot and I had a lot of responsibility and I worked a ton of hours. And I just got to the point where even though I liked my job, I wasn't a person who ever hated my job. It just got to be so much. And I felt like I couldn't manage my life and my job and my kids, especially after I had kids. It just kind of took the fun out of everything. And I felt like I was everywhere all the time, but never actually present anywhere. And so in the end, summing it up in 2 seconds, I ended up quitting my corporate job, becoming a life coach and specializing in this area to help other working women learn to enjoy it and be okay with it and know how to spend their time without having to quit their job.
Wow. Oh my God, that's amazing. I know that's not the topic of this episode, but I really do want to just highlight like how important that is. Because I think I didn't know when I think back to sort of my time and my journey as a working mom, before I quit to become a stay-at-home mother from the overwhelm, but I didn't know that's what that was.
Yeah.
I'm like, you put a name to what probably most women experience, but we don't even have a name for it because the narrative is that that's normal. We're supposed to like do it all in that way.
Yeah, exactly. And I think most people just get to the feeling of, I can't do this anymore. I can't do it. Something's got to give. And usually for women, it's something within their career. And so in my coaching, I mean, sometimes people will decide to quit their job, but it's usually to take a different job, or maybe they want to start their own business. But people will come to me and say, my marriage is terrible. My job is terrible. I have not great relationships with my friends because I don't have the time. I don't even know what I like to do for fun anymore. And so we can solve all of those without having to change the circumstance. You don't have to get divorced. You don't have to change your job. We can just change the way that you're approaching it and make it all feel a lot better. And like I said, sometimes people do. Sometimes they quit their jobs or they do decide to leave their marriage, but that's not the only solution.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome. Okay. Just wanted to kind of comment on that really quick. I love that niche. But today we're here to talk about how you met what we are calling your handsome man friend.
Yes.
Because we don't know what to call. We don't know what to call our boyfriends and partners when we are like in middle age. It's like, what do you call them?
Exactly. When he's 50, boyfriend sounds like he's 16 to me.
Yeah. Yeah, my husband and I, when we were dating, I didn't like boyfriend, girlfriend either. So we just started calling each other partners because like we knew pretty early on that like we were going to try to make this work. And so I think probably like 3 months in, we started calling each other's partners.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that felt a little more mature for us.
Yeah, it's true. And I do feel like he's my partner in life, but we don't live together. So then I'm like, are we partners if we don't live together? So I just go with handsome man friend. That's what I always refer to him as in my emails and, all this, every time I post something about him, that's what I put. So that's how everybody knows him. HMF.
Love it. Love it. All right. So I want to hear about your journey. And I know the listeners are dying to hear about your journey. Could you tell us a little bit about like your first marriage, why you got divorced and what your thoughts were about dating like after the divorce?
Yes. Oh, I'd just love to dive into that topic, Sade. I got married. Let's see. I got married when I was 26 and I married my college boyfriend and we were together for 20 years. And during that time, we adopted 2 kids. We lived in Texas and we adopted both of them while we were there. And we were always, good friends, got along well, had a really nice relationship. And then towards the end, things just started falling apart. I don't want to give a ton of details, but at the end, it was very heartbreaking and traumatic. And a lot of the thoughts I had were, I never thought I was going to be divorced. I thought other people might get divorced, but I never thought I was going to get divorced. And I come from a family of, not divorced people. No one in my family is divorced. No one in his family was divorced. So it was just, it was totally different than what I ever expected of my life. And of course, it was really hard on our kids too. So at the time when we got divorced or separated, actually, he lived in a different town. So he was already out of town and I lived here. And so I became immediately like a full-time single mom. I mean, they would go see him sometimes on the weekends, but they went to school here. So I had them all the time. So my approach to dating for like the first 2 years was just nothing at all. It didn't, it sounds silly to say it didn't even cross my mind, but I feel like that's true. Like it just was not even a maybe. I just had so much to work through. And at that time I called it my mental health activity of the day. So I had a life coach, I had a therapist, I went to yoga, I meditated every day. I mean, I was on it as far as the self-improvement because I felt like I had to start there. I had to start with me. And then my kids, they went to counseling and did all that kind of stuff too. So, and we got a new house. And so it was just getting stable and creating that stability. So for me, I know some people start dating right away and that works for them. But for me, I had to get everything stabilized. I was also starting my business at that time. I just really went all in on the life changes. So I was trying to start a business. I had a successful career before, but I had never been an entrepreneur. So there was lots of stuff I didn't know. So it was this huge learning curve on owning my own business. And then just to top it all, I got a puppy just to cheer my kids up. I know. I don't know what I was thinking. I know. But now, I mean, that dog is like the light of our lives. She's our total therapy dog. It was the best decision. But at the time I was like, what am I doing? So all that to say, I didn't date at all for a long time, probably a year and a half or 2 years.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that sounds amazing. And I love that you were self-aware enough to know that's exactly, what you needed. My journey at that point, the first 9 months for me I was just like, never again. So I had a lot more reactive thoughts. I thought about it and I think I was around other women who were divorced or divorcing, some of whom were dating. But the first 9 months, I was just like, I had a visceral response to even being in touch or in that romantic setting at all.
I just could not even imagine. I feel like it was more neutral than never again because it just was not even a thought. It was like a black hole that I wasn't going to look into.
Yeah. And that emphasizes kind of like one of the things I say constantly on the podcast, which is that there are no formulas. There's no formulas for recovering from divorce, for rebuilding, for dating. Like it's an individual journey, but you can have support. If you have the education, if you learn and grow, then you can craft that journey for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so do you want me to go on?
Oh, yes, please.
Okay. Just making sure you're ready for me to keep telling the story. So what happened at that point is I started to feel really solid about myself and my situation with my home and my business and my kids, even the dog. And I then started to think about dating, but I felt so good. And like I had worked so hard to put myself back together that I wasn't willing to risk it. I wasn't really willing to feel bad or potentially have a relationship that wasn't great. So that sort of held me back from dating more. I would go out maybe one time with someone and just be like, yeah, I don't think so. No, I don't want to do that. It seemed too risky to me when I really just wanted to keep everything totally smooth and calm. And then my next layer was dating people who I knew were never going to be like my life partner, just to dip my toe in the water and, date someone who I'm like, oh, this is fun, but this is never going to be my person, just to sort of practice and not get attached. And
yeah, but what was that like? Like who were these people?
Like people who were 27.
Okay, that's what I was like, I bet that's what that was. Okay.
Right. When you're calculating, like, is this person closer to my son's age or my age? Okay. But it was great. It was fun and, easy and, nothing too serious. So
Potentially exactly what you needed at the time.
I think so. I do. I think so. And then I was on Bumble, and that I went through the phase where I would just swipe on all the people who I liked. And then when they would swipe back, I'd just be like, oh, good. And then never, ever reply or do anything with it. It was like, I just wanted the, like, still got it, like the, the confirmation.
Oh my God. I'm cracking up over here.
I bet that's not something you teach.
I don't teach that at all, but I know my clients do this before they come to me. I have talked to women who are just lurking on the ladies.
Totally. I was lurking. I was definitely lurking, but lurking in like an even creepier way, because I was like, can you just confirm that you like me? Okay, cool. Yeah. Thanks. I'm out. Yeah. So that was that. So I was on Bumble for a long time. I think I did maybe go on like 1 or 2 dates with people from that, but not too much. And then one night I just decided I'm going to get on Tinder. So I do that. I set up my profile on Tinder, go to bed. I wake up in the morning. Tinder's just a totally different kind of app, and there men can reach out to you or partners can reach out to you. And on Bumble, the woman has to do all of the first things. So when I woke up and I had all these messages, it was like completely overwhelming. And I don't think it's because I'm so amazing. I think it was just like, oh, fresh meat. There's a new person on here. Let's send a message. So I looked at all these messages and I was like, oh, I hate this so much. I need to get off this app. So I'm scrolling down and then I happened to see my handsome man friend on there who I didn't know at the time yet. And I'm like, oh, he's cute. And then I read his little bio and it says recently separated, not looking for anything serious, just want someone to get a beer with. And I was like, okay, I like that guy. Because what I was most afraid of, you said, what's your biggest fear? It would have been meeting someone who's like, I want to marry you. That was like a worst thing I could think of. So I sent him a message and said, I hate this app. I'm getting off it. This is not for me, but here's my email if you want to talk to me. So he emailed me and we ended up emailing back and forth. And he also, which this is so attractive to me, he's very deep. Like he will have a deep conversation. He talks about feelings. He's just very available that way. And so we emailed back and forth about silly things like light, whatever things. And then pretty soon it was like, oh, we're 2 days in and we're having these deep conversations via email. So we emailed back and forth. And then he asked me if I wanted to meet up. And I said, yeah, I am. I'm going to I didn't want to be too available. And I also didn't want to commit to like dinner or anything. So I said, I'm going to a party and it will be over by like 9. It was something for my daughter's class. And then I could come and meet you for a drink after that. And so in the meantime, I now know he had another date for dinner before we were going to do that because he had just started dating online too. And whoever he was meeting stood him up. So he was free in plenty of time. Like he was thinking, am I going to make it to meet me? So I'm so glad. Thank you to that woman who didn't show up. And we met for a drink. And the second he walked in, first of all, this is dramatic, but I texted my sister, hey, I'm I give her the name of the bar. I'm walking into this bar. This guy's name is John. If I'm dead tomorrow, start there.
Get the cameras.
Yeah, exactly.
A way to keep yourself safe.
Yes.
Have someone looking out for you on a date. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So he walks into the bar and he's like a very physically big person. He's like 6'4", and he walked in and I could immediately feel his sweet energy. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm totally fine. I'm totally okay. I'm safe with this guy. Like immediately before we even had a conversation. So That was our first date. It was great. It was so much fun. We had the best time. And then I would say the next 2 months were sort of rocky because I would think, oh my gosh, I really, really like him. And then be like, nope, I'm not doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I really, really like him. And then I sort of looked for him to do things that were red flags for me. And there actually were no red flags, but I was like making up red flags because I was scared pretty much.
Yeah, it sounds like that was sort of your thought the whole time was, I want to get close enough, sort of a little bit avoidant, and not quite avoidant in the standard definition, but
yeah,
it sounds like you had some fear of intimacy, trust.
Totally.
Like you wanted to be in the pool, but maybe only have like your toe in the water.
Yes, exactly. He calls it my 10-foot pole. And he'll still say, did you just get out your 10-foot pole and like put his arm out? Like I can feel it. I can feel your 10-foot pole. So it's exactly what I would do. I would put out my 10-foot pole. And I think we just sort of learned together about, how it was going to work. And he was so nice and so patient. And he mentioned me dating other people because I was still dating other people at the time. And so was he. So it was fine. But he even the mention of it, I was like, don't try to tell me that I can't date other people, blah, blah, blah. And so it was like another 2 years and he never said a single word about dating other people. And once I said to him, I think we were like 1.5 years or 2 years in, I said, I never really closed the conversation around dating other people. He's like, oh, I wasn't going to bring that up. I was never going to bring that up.
It's like you told me in no uncertain terms not to mention that again.
Exactly. I said, oh, you can go out with someone else. You'll just crush my soul now. But I mean, you could if you wanted to. So that's kind of our running joke. So yeah, I definitely was. And he just, he was really supportive of the 10-foot pole. He didn't like it, but he was just like, I understand where you're coming from. And like I said, he's very open and available. So I could be like, I'm just scared. I can't help it. I'm scared or I'm reacting to something that has nothing to do with you or anything you've done. I'm just having all these thoughts and feelings because of things that have happened to me in the past. Yeah. And he was so nice about that. And I think, he's not here to speak for himself, but I feel like he would say the same is true. Like we gave each other that. I think it was a real blessing to date someone else who was also divorced and also just tragically crushed about their divorce so that we understood that. And our kids are around the same ages. So we could talk about parenting things. And it was just really nice.
Yeah. And it sounded, I was about to ask that, like, because he said he was recently separated and not looking for anything serious. Was that his version of the 10-foot pole at the time?
I think so. But I think he was just kidding around because I feel like he would have been okay with it all along. He wasn't as nervous about it as I was. I feel like he sort of held back for my sake. And neither one of us want to get married right now. We've been together for 3 years and that's like not part of our plan right now. So I feel like we both are in agreement on that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And it really is a match.
Yeah.
Right? Like where both of you are coming from, what sounds like, and I love this because I'm always explaining this to my clients over and over in different scenarios, is it's not that anyone out there is bad. There are a few actual rotten apples out there in the world, like scammers and narcissists and those people. But most people on the apps, most men on the apps are just men who are showing up in a way that's not a match for what you want.
Yeah.
So your handsome man friend who has his own 10-foot pole and who isn't looking for a commitment anytime soon was a perfect match for you. Like he was looking for exactly what you were looking for.
Yes, exactly.
And often I will have a client or a woman that I'm talking to about this who maybe wants a commitment pretty quickly, or maybe she's been divorced a long time, or she's like, yeah, I want to be married. I want all these things. And then she will encounter someone who has a 10-foot pole and it almost take it personally. Like the men out there are terrible. They don't want commitment. They're afraid of commitment. And there are all of these labels. And the labels go both ways. There are labels for women, labels for men. But I try to teach it like it's just not a match.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that people will tell us exactly what they want, and we just decide to ignore it or think, okay, but I'm going to be the one to change them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Never go based on that.
Yes. He's a
Yeah.
perfect match for whatever it is you are showing up with. If you, I guess, aren't beating yourself up for what you want,
Yeah.
whether it's marriage or it's, hey, we're living apart and we're companions and partners for a while. And I'll tell you, and we'll get back to your story in 30 seconds. When I first started dating, I wanted to find a partner who would buy a duplex with me. Like,
Oh, okay.
I would buy one side. I literally could not imagine a man living in my home. I was like, okay, so here's this thing. I want a man and I want to get married. I didn't want to get married. I didn't want to live in the same house.
I love it. Well, that's possible too.
Right. I know two couples and when I saw them and I interacted with them, I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is exactly what I want, right? And so I set out to find that person who would buy his half and my half, and then we didn't have to do all this other work. But then the minute I met my husband, I was like, oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you're like, okay, you can live in my house.
You can live in my house.
I will allow you.
Yeah. So I love that we can have all these configurations. Did you ever have any doubts about the fact that your configuration doesn't meet the typical normal, picket fence description? Do you wonder exactly how divorced women just like you are meeting eligible men who want a real relationship and a commitment? They're doing it by dating with their core values. Your core values are the GPS that lead you to the partner you've been looking for. When you use your core values on dating apps, text messages, and at social events, you will easily connect with your true match partner without chasing, settling, or wasting time with non-committal men. I have taught exactly how to do this in the 2-hour Core Values Dating Blueprint course available on my website, shadecurry.com/dating. That's SADECURRY.com/dating. You will learn exactly how to identify your core values and use them on your dating profile, how to ask the right questions via text, and how to tell the right stories on dates so that you attract the right people and repel those who aren't right for you. If you're ready to meet your true match, hop over to shadecurry.com/dating or click the link in the show notes. Now back to the episode.
Nope, I really don't. It's interesting though. It's kind of like, well, this happened when I got married the first time too. When you're dating someone, people will say, when are you going to get married? When are you going to get married? And then as soon as you get married, when are you going to have a baby? And when you have a baby, when are you going to have the next one? Like people always just naturally want you to do the next thing. And the great thing is, and this is what we talked about from the get-go, we knew for sure that we weren't going to have kids together. And our kids are both old enough that we didn't feel like meshing them together in the same house at this point would be good. So like we said, okay, if we were younger and we wanted to have kids, or if our kids were like 3 and 4 and 5 or something, we'd say, okay, let's just do it. Let's, make this family. So we just decided what was best for us. And meanwhile, my sister, who's also divorced, met someone, got married like quickly compared to my standards, how we're doing it. And so then everyone's like, what about you? Do you think you're going to get married? And it feels so good to say in front of him or when he's not there, no, that's not what we want to do right now, and feel totally secure in our relationship. It feels so good that we're on the same page with it. And there's no, he's not secretly pressuring me or outwardly pressuring me and vice versa. And I feel totally rock solid about our partnership and all that.
Yes. And your reasons, that's one of the reasons, the reason you did talk about with the kids is that's such an amazing reason. That's such a great reason.
Yeah.
To take it slower, if at all.
That's
a lot of work. That blending, which that's not necessarily the best word for it, but that blending process is not fun for most people.
Right. Yes, exactly. And we just didn't feel like that would be the best thing for us to do right now based on our kids. And one other thing that I feel really good about with our relationship is he gets to decide for his kids, he and his ex-wife, who I really love. And I think she's a fantastic mom. And then, my ex-husband and I get to decide about our kids. And so handsome man friend and I, we will give advice about the other one's children if asked, but otherwise we just support the decision that the other one makes. Yes. And that feels really good.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. I love it. And I mean, just having permission to look at every situation, look at your situation with fresh eyes, versus these prescribed rules of how things are supposed to go. It just sounds so refreshing.
Yeah, it's really nice. It is. It's really nice. Every night when I go to bed, I always go through my gratitude list as I'm falling asleep, and it's on there every day. It's the best situation. I can't think of anything that's missing, or I just wish we had this. It's so great.
Oh, that's awesome. And I know there are some of the listeners who are like, oh yeah, that's exactly what I want. Or, your story may be giving them permission to ask for what they want, or go for what they want. And from having talked to just hundreds of women about this, I know that a lot of the fear that keeps them from dating is the narrative or the fear of judgment, that what they secretly want, or what they think would be best for them would be unacceptable to the people around them.
Yeah, exactly. And you'll probably agree with me on this. That's the perks of being a life coach. I long ago stopped caring what other people thought about me. It wasn't easy because I used to really care, but now it's like, I just care about me, what I think about myself, and what's best for my kids.
Yeah. Amazing.
It doesn't matter to me what, if someone else feels like I should be getting married or whatever. It literally has zero impact on me.
Love it. I love it. All right. So let's talk about green flags. I recently put out a new freebie download. So listeners, you can go to my website and download the 50 green flags of a healthy relationship or healthy partner. I've asked a lot of my guests these questions, like, how did you know he was the one? That's kind of how I phrased it in the past. But today I just want to say, how did you know he was? I know you had that initial energetic feeling that he was a safe person, but I'm guessing that over time you were watching for okay, who is he really? What are the signs? How does he show up in all these areas? What were some of those green flags for you? What did you see in him over time that made you say, yeah, for sure, I'm going to hang out with this guy for a while?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I feel like he's a big giant green flag.
Perfect. Do we want to hear all of it? We want to hear, because I think this is the education that we were all missing the first time around. For many of us who end up just picking the wrong person, we had no idea that green flags were required. We were
Yeah. Okay. The first thing I have to say is I will tell you all of his green flags because he has so many, but the person that I am versus the person I was when I got married the first time has a big impact on seeing his green flags, because what I would do before, and if I could go back and change the way that I treated my ex-husband sometimes, was I felt like I always knew what was best for him. I would give my opinion. I would think this is how I want him to be. And then I would be disappointed when he wasn't that way. So I had all these expectations for him, even though he was a wonderful, smart, hardworking, whatever person. I felt like I was critical of him. And then I learned how, this was before we even started dating, but I learned how to just love people for who they are, and the power of doing that, starting with myself instead of thinking of all the ways that I'm lacking or whatever. And so just going into a relationship with that mindset is so different, because you're looking for the green flags on purpose. And I'm not saying I would have ignored a red flag, but it's like, oh, okay, that's who he is. That's how he acts in this situation. And that's not a problem for me. I don't need to change that about him. For example, I love to be super organized. I see your books are organized by color. Mine are organized by color too. My closet's super organized. I go through and give things away all the time. I'm in this constant curating of all my stuff. And he has, I think, every clothing item he's bought for the last 15 years. And he's a great dresser, but he has so much stuff. And back in the day, I would have been like, you got to get rid of all that stuff. Why are you keeping all that stuff? Blah, blah, blah. And now I'm just like, that's so cute how you have 2 rooms worth of clothes and you're a single man. It's not a problem. And also it's not in my closet. that's perks of not living together too.
Yes.
Like, you can keep 10 years worth of clothes in your closet. That's 30 miles away from my closet. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's just
Yeah.
fine.
100%.
Yeah.
And even like realizing like the interpretation, like, because our brains are constantly trying to make meaning. And so if we don't manage that, and if we don't have a handle on that, like you're a life coach, so you've learned the skill and the tools for doing that for yourself and your clients, but just us walking around with our brains as is, everything has some kind of meaning. And if you're not careful, it always has a negative meaning because our brains are trying to keep us safe.
Yep. It's absolutely true. Yep. Yeah. So I think back to the green flag. So his probably biggest green flag is just his overall energy and kindness. And he's just, you can tell right away, he's a really good person. He's one of those people who people are like, oh, Pam, he's such a good guy. And I thought that right at first, but I think when you're newly single or newly dating, you sort of feel like your ability to gauge another person is off. Like, am I reading this wrong? Am I not sure? And I could tell right away, but I didn't totally want to believe it. And one night, we started dating before COVID, but not too long before COVID. So a lot of our early relationship was just the two of us. Like, we decided to see each other during COVID, like physically see each other. So he'd be at my house or I'd be at his house, but we didn't really go out that much. And when we did go out, we went out with his boss one night, some of his other friends, and everyone was like, oh my gosh, he's the best guy. We're so happy. We're so happy. He's happy. Everybody was like reinforcing this green flag that I felt right off the bat. And then something that I really felt lacking before was safety. And you and I know a lot of the feeling of safety comes from yourself. Like, we have to give ourselves safety, but I felt even more safe when I was with him than when I wasn't with him. And like safe, physically safe, yes, but safe to like share my feelings or to say, when you said that, it really made me think this. And that made me feel bad, or those kinds of things. So I felt totally safe just to be myself. And then the other big green flag was the kind of dad that he is. Yeah. That was, to me, that's like the most attractive thing ever. His daughter was having a hard day one day and he took her out to dinner that night and had this big, deep conversation. Like, he's not afraid to go deep on the feelings and show people that he really cares about them. So I loved that too. And also he does things like drives to pick me up for a date. He lives like 30 miles away. And if we're going to a restaurant by his house, he'll drive all the way out here and pick me up and take me back. And I know it's like the safety thing again, but just riding in the car with him, I'm usually the one who drives because I'm a single mom and I drive everywhere. And just driving the car with him just feels so easy and so relaxed. And I feel so taken care of. So all those things are.
Yeah, that feeling of being taken care of is amazing, especially if you're single mom, working mom. We're taking care of so much stuff.
Yeah.
That feeling of like, oh, someone, like you walk into a room or the date, or he's picking you up and you're like, oh, I don't have to do anything. I just have to be here. I can just be here for the next couple of hours. This is great.
Yes. Yes. And like, he could even decide where we're going to go eat or what we're going to do. Cause I've let go of being a total control freak. I never probably would have done that before, but I can just let someone take care of me, which is super awesome.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. I want to just emphasize a couple of red flags. Green flags that you mentioned, but I think you mentioned them in passing, you didn't like one time he was willing to integrate you into his life. Like, you went out with his boss, you went out with his coworkers, like that is a green flag. And I think there's a narrative that women are clingy or desperate or like, forget the other word for it, but like asking for too much. So when you want to like integrate with someone or meet people in their life, a lot of times women feel bad to ask, or they don't want to say, hey, let's do a blind date with your best friend or things like that. I'm like, no. The right kind of guy will want you to meet the people in his life. Yes. Even if you're not committed or exclusive or planning to be in each other's lives forever, like a green flag is someone who doesn't have anything to hide, who's willing to be transparent.
Gosh, that's absolutely true, for sure. And it was funny because his coworkers, when I've met them, he has a whole bunch. And so even just a few weeks ago, I met more of them. I keep meeting more and more people. And they always say, oh, we thought he was making you up all this time. He talks about you all the time. And then they'll tell me things they know about me that he's told them. I'm like, that's so cute. So cute.
Love that. Oh my gosh, yes. And then the other one that you had said was you felt free to be yourself.
Yeah.
And the example you gave, and the reason I'm breaking it down this way is because in my coaching sessions, this is how my clients and I break down like what happens so that they can see what's happening. Like, I think women are socialized to just like focus on the other person, whatever makes them feel comfortable, as long as the other person is happy. And when I'm working with my clients, we're usually trying to reverse it, like, what's going on with you? How are you feeling in every situation? And you had said, hey, I just feel free to be myself. I can really be myself with him. But you didn't give like, it wasn't like a perfect scenario. You were talking about when you were giving him feedback about what you liked and didn't like, especially about things you didn't like.
Yeah.
So you felt like being yourself didn't just mean, oh, I can just be happy. It meant when something's going wrong, it's safe to tell him that, hey, I don't like this.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I think I'm just thinking of an example from earlier this week. So I'm a complete morning person, real happy when I wake up. And he is the opposite. So he'll stay up late at night, but he would rather sleep later in the morning. And so we've had many discussions because a lot of times the only time we can hang out is maybe starting at 9 p.m. And that's the time I really just want to go to bed. So I'll stay up later just to hang out with him, and we'll just chat and watch TV or whatever we're going to do. And then in the morning, I still have to get up and do all the things. So I come home, he's awake and drinking coffee in my kitchen. And I come home and I've been up for like 3 hours. I've had coffee. I've been to the gym. I've taken my kids to school. I'm just like 10 out of 10 on top of the world, full of energy, whatever. I'm chatty and kissing him on the cheek and stuff. And he just looks at me. He's like, what did you do this morning? I'm like, this is just me. Am I a little too much for you this morning? He's like, why don't you go take a shower and I'll warm up for the day? I'm like, okay. So that was his nice way to say, get your energetic self out of my face.
Yes, it's too early for this.
And he's like talking, and he has this very gentle voice. Why don't you go take a shower? Get out of here. But it feels good. I don't feel like I have to tone it down or not be myself, even though I know he's not that way. And another thing I really struggled with, and this is one of my stories from the past, is when I'm having like a hard or a bad day. So let's say I'm exhausted and I'm frustrated with my kids, or I'm trying to help somebody with homework, or you have high school boys.
Oh, yep.
Oh my gosh. Physics is killing me right now, by the way. So I used to, like, my old self would have been like, I'm not in a perfect state. I'm not at my best right now. So I don't want you to come over. Like, I don't want we're still going to be in relationship and stuff, but I don't want you to be here and see this and whatever. And so just recently I started telling him, I feel really crappy. I'm crabby. I don't care if you come over, but I'm just telling you, you're not going to get the best me. And for him to say, I don't care. I just want to sit by you. That's what he said. I just want to sit by you. I'll come over and I'll just sit by you. Okay. And one night he even told me to go to bed, and he finished teaching my daughter her math stuff. And I was like, in tears. Yeah. Is there anything more romantic than that?
I like, seriously, I feel that in my soul.
Yep. You know what else you did the other day? This is something only a single mom could understand and appreciate. I left to go somewhere, and he left after I did. He was here in the morning, and I came home and he had cleaned out the coffee pot and like took the old grounds out of it. So the next day when I went to go make coffee, the coffee pot was already clean. And I was like, oh, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me.
I know, it feels like a miracle. You're like, wait, what? Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh. And I texted him a picture of the empty coffee machine. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. That's my love language too, acts of service. So just anytime someone does something so I don't have to do it, oh, that is the truest love there ever was.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes. And I thank you for sharing all of this. Like, just those, like in the coach world, we call them the 3 a.m. scenarios, where it's just like those moment by moment incidents that let you know you're loved and you're safe and you're cherished. And for a lot of women, we don't know. For some, like, my parents got divorced, lots of chaos. I jumped right into my marriage. So like, I didn't have this breakdown of this is what it looks like to be in a healthy relationship. These are the moments. These are the, these are the little signs to look for. And it's not, well, he brought me coffee one time in the last year. Like some people are so starved for love and kindness and acts of service that like they can be bought with a single cup of coffee because they have never
absolutely.
even had that.
I've been that person before.
Yeah.
I get that. Yeah.
So like the message, and I just really feel like you've done such a marvelous job of like sharing that with the listeners is this is what it can look like. This is what's possible.
Yeah.
If you know yourself, you work on yourself, you heal, and you go for exactly what you want, looking for someone who matches that. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking me. That was therapeutic for me as well.
Absolutely. We didn't talk a lot about the apps, but I think maybe my last question can be around using the apps. So a lot of women are like super nervous about using the apps or like kind of get like, oh my gosh, this is, terrible. We shouldn't use the app. So I want to meet someone organically, etc. Like, what's your advice for someone who wants to get it? And you've met him on Tinder. Like Tinder is like the whoa
I know,
of them all.
Exactly.
So looking back,
I'll tell you what my tagline is. I always say, all true love is found on Tinder.
So, we're kidding, ladies. We're kidding. It's still Tinder. However, and I love that because he really does emphasize one of my thoughts. People ask me, what's the best dating app? I'm like, all of them are good.
Yeah.
All of them will work. You just have to find the one that works for you, which might mean getting on more than one, getting and learning how to use them, getting and learning some, skills and tweaking and practicing and things like that. But what are your thoughts now about dating apps?
I totally agree with you. I think they're an amazing resource that we didn't have the first time around. And I think that it's great to go into it, as you said, getting clear with yourself first, knowing where you are, knowing you're in the process of healing. I don't think you have to be completely healed. Are we ever necessarily? But, knowing yourself, knowing what you're looking for. And I think just believing, because when I was preparing in my mind for this interview, I was thinking, what helped me meet him? And I just had, and have always had an underlying belief, but that there are great guys like my dad's a great guy. My brother's a great guy. I just believe that there are great guys available. So sometimes people will say to me, well, I wish I could find someone like you. You got the last good one. And I hate that.
It's never true.
It's not true. There are plenty. So I think believing that the person in the situation that you want is out there.
Yes.
The app feels irrelevant.
Yes.
Right.
If anything, the apps help us shoot fish in a barrel. Brings all the guys so that we can find the good ones.
Yeah, exactly. And it helps you get very clear, like, nope, I don't want that. Nope, I don't want that. And like I wanted to date someone who had kids and I wanted to date someone who had been divorced. And, but I wouldn't have known that going in.
Yeah. Yeah. So good. Thank you so much for sharing. Like, I know this is helpful for so many people. Tell us again what you do. You work with, okay, I'll just let you say, because then I'm going to just mess it up. So tell us again what you do and like who your clients are. If, majority of the listeners to this podcast are women in midlife, working moms, single moms. So like, just kind of give us a little synopsis, what you do, what you help everyone with, and then where they can find you.
Okay, great. So I work with women who are working and overwhelmed. Lots of times they end up being moms as well. And what I do is I help them create a more calm, present, peaceful, grounded life, which is sort of the last way that they would describe their lives when they first start working with me. So I do that through one-on-one coaching. And I also have started a podcast called the Overwhelmed Working Woman Podcast. And every week I will give strategies and tools that you can use just to feel more calm and less overwhelmed.
Man, I feel calmer already. Yeah. Just thinking of it, I'm just like floating up into this like reverie. I'm like,
my clients tell me that my voice is calming. Maybe that was it. Maybe my voice calmed you.
I think so. They're right. I think that's what it was. I was like, yes. But I think that just means you embody energetically what you are helping women
absolutely
do.
Yeah. I feel like if someone just peeked in my window at any time, there would be no surprises. I practice what I preach. I'm honest. I get overwhelmed sometimes too. Everybody does. The goal isn't to not get overwhelmed. It's to just know how to get out of it and know how to feel calm and peaceful more than you feel overwhelmed.
Wonderful. Michelle, oh my gosh, thank you so much for everything you have just shared and everything you shared on the podcast about dating. We're going to link up all of please tell them where to find you online for those who just want to listen and go right to your website or your socials. Just spell that out.
So my website is michellegauthier.com. So it's Michelle with 2 L's, Michelle. And my last name is Gauthier. And that has everything. You can subscribe to my weekly newsletter. There's a link to my podcast, all the socials, everything. Work with me. All that stuff is on my website. So if you just go there, that's a great place to start.
Awesome. And the website and the socials and the podcast will be linked in the show notes. Thank you for being here today, listeners. Please connect with Michelle online if her work resonates or her story resonates with you. I'm sure she would love to hear from any and all of you. We appreciate your time and attention today. Michelle, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so appreciative of what you're putting out in the world too. I think it's so needed and you're just one of my favorite people.
Thank you. All right, everyone. We will see you next time. Thanks for listening today. If you are ready to get married after divorce, I want to invite you to download my free 8-video training specifically designed to help divorced women date with ease and get married again. Head over to sadecurry.com to get started. That's SADECURRY.com. I'll see you inside.